Hey, how you doing, guys? It is James Alba, remote today for D4 Sports, but we are still joined with my co-host Mike McNulty.
What up?
And guys, we're trying to be a little safe with COVID still going on. I was in Georgia this past weekend coaching a 13U team in a little tournament. Drove back to New York last night, got back, and just trying to be a little careful. Going to get my test tomorrow. Didn't want to put anybody in harm's way, so we're doing a little remote action.
We're both staying safe.
Hobo staying safe
D4 Sports.
with D4 Sports. Big
So,
thing we wanted to dive into today, Mike. You want to give us a little intro into what we're going to begin with?
well, yeah. So I read online the other day about what Charles Barkley said that he believes athletes should get preferential admissions, or not even admissions, but they should get the vaccine first because they pay higher taxes. Therefore, they should get the vaccine. To me, I think that's complete BS because basically Charles Barkley is saying that every rich person should get the vaccine
Yeah.
before anybody else. And I don't know. I have some discrepancies with that. Right now, everybody who's at risk, the older population, has been basically they've been able to get their vaccines. Now they're waiting, and there's a lot that people scheduled their vaccines like 2 months out, 3 months out, weeks and weeks, and it's crazy. But workers are getting it, essential workers and stuff like that, but they're also 3 weeks out. So my thing to like Charles Barkley saying that is, so you think that they should all get it right now, right away, because they pay the highest in taxes, when some of our essential workers haven't gotten it. Some of our most at-risk pieces of the population or groups of the population haven't gotten it yet. And to me, that's just not right. I don't think that you should get it because you pay higher taxes. And to be honest with you, I love sports. I know you love sports. I'm all about it. But that's not the reason for somebody to get the vaccine. Because at the end of the day, they're unessential. You're not here. They don't make the economy run. They don't put food on the table. They don't put the lights on. They don't dig the gas lines. They don't come to your house for plumbing issues, electrical issues. And in my eyes, essential workers should make sure that they have all their shots and vaccines if they want them first. And I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, let me just say, I work in schools, so I am a teacher. Um, I am about 3 or 4 weeks out from getting my vaccine, which I signed up for. And if you were to tell me we ran out of them and our first responders and our essential workers have not gotten it yet, I'm taking myself off the line. You know,
I
I'm not saying I want my vaccine. If there are people like, and don't get me wrong, I do think I serve an important role in society, educating kids, but
agreed.
I don't serve as vital a role in this time as a nurse or a doctor or a police officer or a firefighter. Some people that are out there all day protecting us, making sure that, essentially just serving the community, based off of their own genuine care for people. And if it comes down to me, needing to give up my spot in line for someone that does need, or even like even at-risk elderly, people with prevailing illnesses that elevate the risk for COVID, those people should be in front of me too, which they are in the
I
tier.
I agree 100% with you. Um, my thing about it too is like these. So a lot of people are already been able to get them in those, but I agree with you. Like teachers, yes, they should get them as well because at some point kids have to go. Like if they're not back at school already, they have to go back to school because there's no childcare at home, and especially if those essential workers have to go to work. I just thought that was something that he came out and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I think there's a lot of other people that should be getting it before them, and there's already a long wait list. And you're right, you're at the point where you're not in a high risk situation in terms of yourself. Like you don't have underlying conditions, and you're not older, so it's like I agree with what you said because I probably do the same thing. Like I'm not super concerned with myself getting it at the moment, but like my grandparents, my dad, my mom, like I want them to get it. Same situation as you. I just think that there's a lot of other people that could use that before they start saying that athletes should get it. It also rubbed me the wrong way though because he's basically saying that anybody who pays higher amounts of taxes should get their vaccine. Just basically the rich should get it when there's plenty of other people that should get it before that.
Which is funny, it's funny you bring it up like that because, like, aside from COVID, all the other social issues that we've dealt with, we could talk about race relations and things like that. But a lot of what it boils down to, a lot of people have a problem with wage discrepancy in this country, and one of the big issues is the amount of resources available to the rich community versus those who don't have as much. And for Charles Barkley to basically come out and say that people in higher tax brackets or people that pay higher taxes, that's a nice way of saying rich people. They
Yeah.
should be the people getting COVID vaccines first. It's just like it just shows like what a person of his stature and status, like how like
He thinks
how
and of himself.
it's an entitlement thing. It's like I understand professional athletes put a product on the field or on the court or on the ice that is reaching millions of people on a given night. But at the end of the day, like just because you're a member of a multi-billion-dollar industry or league or whatever, it doesn't entitle you to getting a vaccine before somebody.
No, and I completely agree with you. The other thing that I would argue is like these rich people, right? Not these rich people, but people with more money have nicer homes. Let's say they have bigger homes. They have places where quarantine might not be as bad. And, I feel like that you can deal with the pandemic a lot easier than somebody who's financially hurting at this time. And, there's a lot of small businesses that are getting put out of business because of this. And for somebody to come out and say that, it just really ticked me off because there's people fighting. Like, I know that's their livelihood and I understand that, but they're still playing. They're still there. The leagues are mitigating risk. They're mitigating the virus.
Mhm.
And I think they're doing a very good job at it. I think the NFL's done a great job at it, the NBA, the NHL. Everybody's doing really good in that sense. But I don't think that should entitle you to the vaccine first, especially if you also look at it. A lot of these athletes are in peak condition. So if they did get the virus, like, yeah, it'll probably affect a couple people pretty bad. And, they might have some adverse effects of it. But at the end of the day, they're in peak physical condition and they shouldn't really be as affected as somebody else in a different category,
Yeah, and we don't want to sit here like in our chairs and pretend to be like struggling Americans because we both come, we live on Long Island. We both come from pretty successful families, so we don't want to sit here and say like, we're these enlightened people that understand the struggles of someone that doesn't have much. But at the same time, like our entitlement and our benefits that we have from coming from good families doesn't make us feel like we need to be the first in line to get a virus,
No,
and,
not at all.
and it's just sad because like, he I don't know how much thought he put into these comments. Like, he's sitting there on TNT and he has like the show going on and he just comes out, with on live television and says this. It really made me wonder, like, was he just talking like off the top of his head or like how much thought has he actually put into this? Because it was
Yeah,
such a cool thing to say.
no, and I that's what I said. I was like, wow. I don't know if I wouldn't have said that on like live TV, especially
Right?
because a lot of your audience is not in that category. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, ooh, but he said it. It came out. I definitely disagree with it. I know there's a lot of people that probably disagree with it as well, and there might be some people that agree with it. And that's okay. People can have their own opinions on it, but in my eyes, I just feel like, I love sports, but that to me is not the right way to allocate where the vaccine goes right now. I think there's other places that it can be used, not just because you pay more taxes.
Right.
And I think that was his way around saying wealthier people. He's like, oh, we're in a higher tax bracket, or we're in, this. Oh, there's my cat fighting. But I thought that was a crazy thing to say on live TV, to be honest with you.
And I'm kind of happy that the sentiment around all the professional leagues, most athletes in response to what he said, I don't have names off the top of my head, but it did seem, just scrolling Twitter and checking some of the sources, most athletes did not come out and vocally support what Charles Barkley said.
No.
It was, first of all, obvious. You're kind of digging
Yeah.
into a PR hole there, but it is good to see. Like someone like Patrick Mahomes that just signed a $500 million contract. I don't he just doesn't take me as the kind of guy that's going to be like, yeah, like I should get the
No,
vaccine. You know, he's a down to earth kid, you know, always remembers where he comes from when you hear him talk in the media, you know, talking about his dad, like where he came from, like the hard work, you know, that entitlement, while it does certainly exist in a lot of these leagues, I don't think the players are naive enough to vocally outcry that they should be first in line, which I think is
no. I
um,
think a lot of the players understand the situation. I think a lot of players are very cautious about what they do. I think they have to be cautious because once again, that's their livelihood, and I think they have the resources. Like, I don't mean to say this like this, but somebody making an NFL contract, if they wanted to, could most likely go out and rent another apartment somewhere and be away from their family if they had to do that.
yeah.
Um, you know, if they're not living outside their means and, that kind of thing. But they have the resources to make this a lot easier and to contain themselves and not have to go. They're getting tests a lot more often than anybody else is getting. And
Way.
like I said, I think the leagues did a great job at mitigating the risk of getting the virus. Now it's just, to have a professional athlete slash commentator come out and say that, I do agree with you. I don't think that a lot of people agree with him. I don't think a lot of people paid attention to him when he said that. So now it's just you gotta sit back for a little bit after a comment like that and be like, ooh, is that a great thing to say or not?
No, 100%.
But
And even further, you know, the way the leagues have mitigated the risks. We've seen a number of athletes, particularly in the college side of things, opt out of the season,
yep,
uh, and they've been given full rights to do that. You know, it's not like in any given NFL or NBA season, a player can just be like, "Nope, don't want to play this year." You
yeah,
know, it allow for an avenue to further mitigate the own personal risk of the athlete by sitting out. One thing the NBA did, which I thought was really well thought out, and I actually hadn't even realized until I looked at the schedules, the NBA didn't fully schedule their second half of the season, which I thought was a really good idea because with the number of teams that have already had COVID cases come down, there's going to be a lot of makeup games. They did lessen the season by a number of games, but they have given the ability to more carefully schedule the second half of the season, just in case there does have to be a number of makeup games, and it doesn't put pressure on these teams like we saw with Major League Baseball towards the end of the year to have these double header games or these back-to-back games. They can carefully, pace out how they do these makeup games because it's inevitable that someone on some team facing another team is going to come down with the virus at
yeah.
some, you know?
No, I agree. I completely agree with you. And like, I think that the leagues understood what they had to do. I think they did a great job executing. I think that they put a lot of protocol in place to make sure that they keep their players safe, they keep their fans safe, and I appreciate that. I really do. I just thought that was an off comment, and it is what it is. But I just really want to talk about it because I wanted to see if anybody else thought the same way.
And no, and I totally agree with you. Another thing that we're going to get into next week when we have Joe on, Joe, who you've seen around on the Southern Bottle channel multiple times, might be making a couple appearances on Spike Bites. We're actually going to sit down and talk hockey next week and just early season stuff. But one of the things the NHL did was they realigned division brackets so that most of the teams you're playing are in a relatively close distance, so it's much easier to contact trace how who played who and who came in contact with who. Like all of the Canadian teams, all the teams that play in Canada, they're playing in the same division, which is
Well, that's
normal.
cool. So they made divisions based on location,
They
basically.
regionalize the divisions rather than have like the Metro, which has teams from Canada, teams from New York going all the way down south. Like they kept them all in a relatively closed bubble per se, but it's limiting the amount of locations games are played for those teams. It was a really well thought out idea, different from what the NBA did, but also a really good idea.
No, and they got people that make a lot of money to come up with these decisions. And I agree. They're making good decisions.
Yeah,
They are.
absolutely. All right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page with that. Another thing we wanted to get into, we have hockey coming next week. We talked football a lot, but we wanted to kind of close the door on this short chapter in football we had Black Monday after the regular season. We saw all of the coaches that got fired. We have some hires already. I personally want to talk about Rob Salah with the Jets. I know you have a couple of ideas with Urban Meyer going down to Jacksonville. I'm going to pass it off to you first though, because I know you're a little opinionated about one coach, Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. I think he's got a good football IQ. I think he's a good football coach. I didn't agree with a lot of his incidents of when he was at Florida with, the Pouncey brothers or Aaron Hernandez and how he let things slide. So that kind of gave me a bad taste with Urban Meyer. But now he's in Jacksonville. I think he's, going to bring Trevor Lawrence, and I'm sure.
It's a nice first thing to do as a coach is draft.
It is. And the other thing, too, about him being down there is that he's got a lot of, I think, support because he was at Florida and Jacksonville and Gainesville pretty close, and everybody admired him there. So I think, it's a good spot for him for sure. I want to see what happens if he, blows it up or if he busts. But, the other thing that concerns me is when he's sometimes not doing well, he kind of takes a medical leave. And I'm not saying that he hasn't been sick or anything like that, but I think that, I want to know if he's going to stick out for the long haul and build the team, build the program, and build that franchise itself, or if, he's going to go down and see if he has success, and then he's like, nah, I don't. And this is also one of his first and if this is his first time he's in the NFL, so that's a big deal too, So it's going to be very interesting seeing him come from the college level up to the professional level and see what he can do there. What are your thoughts on him being there?
Well, it's funny. We've seen a number of college coaches, I should say, come from the college ranks, and it's kind of a mixed bag. Jim Harbaugh, when he left Stanford to come coach the 49ers, was very successful in his first couple of years. That kind of fizzled out. I think the most successful, of recent memory that we've seen is probably Pete Carroll. Even though Pete Carroll came to the NFL the first time and did not do well at all, when he went to USC and then came back to coach the Seahawks, he's had an immense amount of success. I think a lot of it comes down to the amount of power that a college head coach can get now working in the NFL, because when you're a college head coach, you don't only coach the team, but you pick the players. You fill out your recruiting classes. I'm pretty sure the power structure in Jacksonville is going to give Urban Meyer a lot of the personnel decisions, which is good.
Yeah.
I think you need that when you're a college coach. It's just, it's a different power dynamic. I know one of the problems with Harbaugh was a lot of players said that the speeches kind of just got stale after a while, because when you're in college, most of the kids you coach, you're only coaching for 2 years, 3 years. When you're in the NFL, and if you have any sort of success, you could be with that same roster for 6, 7, 8 years.
Time.
And it's like, how many times can you hear the same stories, or how many times can you hear the same speech? That's the only thing that I have pause with. I definitely think it's easy, an easy start. Jacksonville has the most cap space in the league. They have 2 first-round picks, one of them being the number 1 pick. They're obviously going to take Trevor Lawrence. He has all the tools in place to completely, blow up this roster and do what he wants with it. But, I don't think we'll know until we see them take the field week 1. He hasn't coached in 2 years now.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting is, I was actually reading something that Joe Namath came out with. And he wrote a little article, I guess, and he was talking about Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, and he was talking about Trevor Lawrence going there. Yeah. And he was saying, talked a little about Darnold. He talked a little bit, just saying, he's a good quarterback. He could be in the league for 15 years. But then he's like, I think that Trevor Lawrence is a franchise quarterback. He's someone that can turn around a franchise. And if that's what Urban Meyer gets, that I would love to see Duval, come out with that. And those are some fun fans, and they deserve it, I think. So it'd be very interesting. I'm very interested to see how this goes and where he takes it.
And you want to see Jacksonville succeed, because it seems like the Jaguars are always a team that comes up in the relocation rumor, whether it's like they're going to be the team that plays in London or wherever else they find a new NFL city. So I do hope Duval gets a chance to keep their team, see a little success, and Yeah, I think Urban Meyer's a good coach. I think they're certainly in position to have success. We'll just see what happens down the line. There's certainly enough things in place where things can go very well.
Yeah, and their owner, Shaq Khan, he really, he wants his team to be successful. I think that's one of the reasons they're always in the relocation perspective, because he's trying different things. He wants to see London. He wants to bring it there, and he wants to be that guy. But I think it's going to be a fun thing to watch. So
I promise you this: no other NFL team wants an NFL team in London because you don't want
no,
that team on the schedule.
nope.
The
So who do you got?
The other hire I wanted to talk about was Rob Salah being hired by the New York Jets, the former DC of the San Francisco 49ers. I personally loved the hire. He's a young guy. He's I believe he's 41 or 42 years old. He's just an absolute fireball of energy. Like if you watch him on the sideline with his team, like he's the most hyped up guy on the sideline, and it's pretty cool because he gets his players to play hard. And he's not loud for the sake of being noticed. You can tell he's genuinely excitable about watching his team be successful, which I think is the total opposite of what the Jets had in Adam Gase. Adam Gase was a guy that like would bring his clipboard or his iPad or whatever over to the bench and like sit down during the defensive drives and like not care. And not saying that he doesn't care, but he just didn't show emotion. And
Yes.
Todd Bowles was similar. He was a very stoic character. He wasn't someone that was going to be very loud and in your face. There was one writer, I forget who it was. He actually compared him to what Mike Tomlin is like in Pittsburgh, which is pretty cool. And I really do like Mike Tomlin a lot. He's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I do too.
And I like the hire. He comes from Kyle Shanahan's tree. So essentially, he has a lot of, offensive backgrounds as well. He was a tight ends coach, I believe, when he first came into the league. So he's been on the offensive side of the ball. He's brought over some of the highest ranking, offensive coaches from San Francisco to run the offense. And so, they're going to be installing that Kyle Shanahan offense, which is probably one of the more envied offenses in the entire league right now in terms of, mind, like what the scheme itself is. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's interesting. There's a lot of ways they can go, whether Darnold's the quarterback still, or they try to even trade for Deshaun Watson or something like that.
I heard rumors. Watson came out to New York, but I also talking about Darnold. Philip Rivers, he's retiring. He's like, I'm excited to go coach high school football. I thought that was awesome.
That's so
that
cool.
was great. And then the other thing I heard was, Darnold might be a good option for like the Colts, and I don't know what you think about that.
Absolutely, the Colts would be one of the best places Sam Darnold can go to. I have no doubts about that.
I agree with you. So that's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. But yeah, if Watson comes to New York, there's a lot of chatter right now with the Jets, I think, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz. It's fun. It's new. He actually, we're recording this on a Thursday morning, so we're looking to see. I think he has his press conference going on this afternoon, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say. But
Sure.
I don't have to hear the press conference to know he's going to walk in there and just demand the energy of the room, because he's just that type of presence, and I'm really excited to just see a big change up for the Jets. They need it. They need a little energy. They need some life, and I think the players are going to respond to him really well.
I agree. I completely agree with you.
Yep. All right, so we got to talk a little Charles Barkley. I'm going to try and pin his comments down below in the YouTube section of the video. This way we can, if you haven't gotten a chance to hear it, you can definitely take a look at it. And like I said, next week we're going to be talking a little hockey, a little change up from the NFL. We'll keep updating you guys on the playoffs as we go along. Didn't get to this episode, but that's all right. And so I want to thank you for being on with us, Mike.
No problem.
Yep. And once again, this is James Alba signing off here with D4 Sports, sports entertainment for the walk-ons of life. Don't you forget it, people. Cheers. Have a great night.
Peace.
Peace.